How much you transfer your weight in the downswing will, to a large extent, determine how good of a golfer you are. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the movement of the lower body in the downswing, at impact and into the follow-through to truly improve your ball striking and distance potential. When it comes to shifting your weight throughout the golf swing, this topic can prove quite controversial. But today I'm going to talk to you primarily about how to be moving your weight in the downswing and into the follow-through. How far forward should your weight be at any point in time in the swing? And why do I prescribe it in such a way? Well, I'm talking about the benefits of weight shift in the downswing to, first of all, control the contact. Fundamental number one in stack and tilt describes controlling contact, or the low point. The predictability, the quality of the strike improves the more forward your weight is when you hit the ball. That's universally demonstrated by great ball strikers. There is nobody on the planet playing good golf with their weight on their back foot when they hit the ball. So whatever your theories, or you subscribe to different ideas about weight shift and where the weight should be, understand this: the best golfers have their weight the most forward. The pressure is most into their lead foot at impact, and then continues more so into the follow through. I'll spend some time in a second giving you some approximate values to that, but ultimately I want to help you with a drill that's going to make sure you enforce and implement this change into your swing as quickly as possible. From setup to finish, my pelvis is moving some 6 to 8 inches towards the target, and really most of that happens in the downswing and in the follow through. In the backswing, we'd be talking about making a pivot where the pelvis stays relatively centered, so no sway away from the target, no excessive sway towards the target. We're looking to keep the center of the pelvis pretty centered. And so all of that shift and that movement happens in the downswing. I've talked recently in a video about the down and forward that initiates the downswing. But so many of you who struggle with contact and quality and consistency of contact never get your weight far enough forwards. If I was to say that there was about 60% of my weight on my left foot at the top, that needs to be all the way down to 90% by the time I hit the ball. My pelvis has moved laterally. There's a sway that exists that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but I promise you that it exists. It exists in the best ball strikers. It certainly exists in the number one golfer in the world right now. The amount of pelvic lower body sway in the downswing is as much as anybody's. If that doesn't tell you or encourage you to think that there needs to be a weight shift, a movement of the weight towards the target in the downswing and the follow through, I'm not quite sure anything I say will convince you. But I'll try, and I'll show you that the best ball strikers are moving that lower body towards the target in the downswing and continuing to move it further forwards into the follow through. Let me take a second to explain the movements of the hips and the pelvis so that you can better see what I'm asking you to do. Effectively, the pelvis can either turn, rotate effectively, just moving around a fixed axis. This would be turning or rotating the pelvis. But in the golf swing, there's another element to it that needs to happen, which is a lateral slide or shift. In other words, a tilting of the pelvis to the right, which takes place throughout the downswing and progressively continues through impact and into the follow through. Now, a good downswing pelvis movement has both movements. It has some rotation and it has some sway or some slide. And it is ultimately blending these things correctly that's going to help you to make a better golf swing. But for those of you who struggle with contact, what I see on a daily basis is golfers whose hips are turned too much with not enough lateral or forward movement. So there's not enough of the sway component. And if I was going to help you to start to feel this movement, I'd teach you to try and put a stick here, like an alignment stick I have through my belt loops, which when I set up to the ball is going to be level to the ground and pointing down my target line. I can place my hands on the stick, make a backswing, and then as I swing down, try to move that stick to the left towards the target to a point where I'd get maximum sway in and minimal turn, meaning at this point in time the stick is still pointing at the target. I haven't moved it past that original point and rotated. The rotation part is necessary, and as I've already mentioned, it's a blend, but you will always typically have enough of the rotation already. It's the sway part, it's the lateral movement part you don't have enough of. So taking your pelvis and moving it to the left, tilting this stick on an angle without turning it at all. Moving my belt buckle from this front view all the way over my lead foot as much as I can, which starts to create the side tilt in the pelvis and the side tilt in the upper body that's necessary to transition into a good follow through. So just as a dry drill, just start practicing moving the pelvis as far towards the target as possible. Keep the leg extended, allow the foot to start to roll and bank inwards. We don't want to see the knee come out. I don't want to see the heel of the foot come off the ground, because that starts to invoke too much of the rotational piece. You can see here how my hips are not forward enough. So a nice dry drill that you can do at home right now, even if you don't have a stick. You can remove the stick, take that away. I can just put my hands on my hips and I can just push my pelvis to the left. Once again, checkpoint, move the belt buckle over the lead ankle. At this point in time in a real swing, if you were just focusing on this, the turn would begin to kick in and you'd start to move into what would look like a more functional or fully completed follow through. But I'm isolating and telling you to work primarily on the sway piece, because that's the bit that most of you are deficient in. And the next step to practicing this and experiencing how it would begin to feel as part of a golf swing would be to place an obstacle outside of your lead hip. Here I've just got my camera tripod from iRange Sports set up, and it's 2 fist widths away from my left hip. You could do the same thing standing in a door frame. You could just position yourself 2 fist widths away from the edge of the door frame, and then with or without a club, make a swing in the backswing, and then in the downswing, try to get your lead hip to touch the door frame or the obstacle by the time your club reaches impact. Again, that's mimicking this slide or this tilt that I was implementing with the stick through my belt loops. It's exaggerating and emphasizing the sway portion of the swing, getting the weight all the way to the left early. Because in an actual swing, when the speed takes over and you begin to hit a ball, the sway part needs to be enough that the turn part doesn't outrace it. And again, that's what most of you are getting wrong. The turn part is winning the race between how much turn you need and how much sway you need. So go to the top, start down, and try to get your lead hip, the top of your leg there, to strike the stick, the door frame, whatever obstacle you're using. You can get up from your chair right now, stand to the side of your chair or a stool, and just try to mimic this movement. The more you can move your weight forward, the more you move your low point forward, the better your contact will become, and you'll be able to swing faster, because the more you swing the hips forward, the more of this spine tilt you create, which is in itself a power producing piece of the swing. And finally, we can progress to hitting balls with this same drill. You can implement the same obstacle at the driving range, place something on the mat next to you when you're hitting balls, or push a stick into the grass if you're fortunate enough to be able to practice from a grass range. Place something to the side of your lead leg, 2 fist widths away, and get to the top of your swing and rehearse coming down, trying to touch that. Try to knock it over almost if you could. That would be a lot, but again, remember, we're emphasizing and exaggerating the sway portion. By the time I reach this implement next to me here, by the time I strike my obstacle, I've got 95, almost 100% of my weight here supported on my lead leg. You can see that I'm able to just lift my trail leg up slightly. That's where you need to feel like you get to. 95 to 100% of your weight has already transferred. The belt buckle is all the way past my lead ankle and over the top of my lead foot. That's the movement that all the best ball strikers are demonstrating, all of them. Nobody's moving their hips back. No one who's any good, that is. Then you can go ahead and hit balls, trying to reach this feeling of getting the hips and the weight as far forward in the follow through. Just reaching at the end of the swing here, my belt buckle reaching all the way to this obstacle. If you don't implement this and experience the best ball striking of your life, I don't know what to tell you. This will transform your ability to make better contact more often and increase the distance you hit the ball, mostly via the fact that your contact quality is going to improve. That was 170 yard 7-iron, all the way to the front, belt buckle touching at the end. At the end of your swing, the piece of your body that should be the furthest forward when you're looking at it from this front view camera is the belt buckle should be the most forward. That means you've pushed your pelvis maximum forward and your spine is slightly extended or bending backwards. That exercise, as I say, will help your ball striking immediately. This, as I've already mentioned, is demonstrated by all great golfers. I've said no more so than Scotty Scheffler, who is currently the world's #1 player. If you were looking for a low-hanging fruit, if you're looking for a way to improve your ball striking with the least amount of effort, transform your ball striking by implementing this weight forward hip sway movement. The more you move your pelvis towards the target, the better ball striker you will be. So it's vitally important to have the weight forward piece into your downswing and follow through. The likelihood is, if you're struggling with consistent ball striking, you're not doing the weight forward piece enough. And I would see that very regularly in the lessons that I conduct, both in person and online. The weight forward needs to continue in downswing and all the way to the follow through, to the point where the pelvis is pushed some 8 inches forward of where it started. If you want to implement that piece into your swing, use the drills I prescribed today. Exaggerate the feeling of the sway, minimize the feeling of the turn, and if you do that, you'll likely be in a really good place. If you enjoyed the video today, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. I'm adding new content all the time in order to help educate each and every one of you to a better golf game. And if you are someone who struggles with timing the weight shift and moving the right pieces at the right time, you may want to consider putting 100% of your weight on your front foot to start with and keeping it there. That would be the wrench drill. I made a video on the wrench recently, and if you want to really focus on better ball striking, this may just be the perfect video for you.